Let's go out and talk to Monte Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area. Hey, Monte, how you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining us. Great seeing you out at the Chase Center a week ago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Let me just get your overall philosophy. I'm watching last night's game where the Warriors are, and I know they're a 10th seed, and there's a lot of people. They can make a run, and they maybe still get a title, this, that, and the other thing. I actually looked at last night's game and was thinking, the veterans, they didn't play with Steph, they didn't play with Draymond, and Clay struggled, and Chris Paul struggled, and Wiggins was Wiggins. Man, if they don't have their young guys in that game last night, like how bad would that have looked if they don't have a Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis? So where are you kind of on the balance between the young kids, the veterans, where this team can realistically go?
Well, I mean, the run that this team has made last month wouldn't have happened without the young guys. I mean, Steph had his moments when he was good. He had his moments when he wasn't so good. Clay had his moments when he was good and moments when he wasn't so good. Kuminga has been the most consistent player for this team over the last 6 weeks or so. So without him, I mean, you don't want to know where they would have been last night or any of the last few weeks. So I think they're a good enough team when they're healthy to still to win more games than they'll lose over the stretch run. The question is whether they'll win enough games. They got 17 left, and I mean, they got to win like at least 13, 14 of those games. I mean, I think it's going to take probably 48 maybe to get into the top six. Mm-hmm. So, that's going to be a tough run for them to make the way they've been playing it. I mean, those two losses last week to the Spurs and to the Bulls at home, those were killer losses. I mean, if they win those two games, they go into Dallas a half game behind the Mavericks. Instead, now they can barely see them. They're so far in front of them. So that's the challenge before them. They're at 34 wins now. Yeah, they got to. I mean, I think 48 should do it, but it's hard to see that happening the way they've been playing because they were playing so well, and now they've lost 4 of the last 6. That's the wrong direction.
Yeah, Monte, I need basketball therapy, so bear with me, brother. After the Milwaukee game, I was cheesing. I was like, there it is. Here we go. And you're right. That loss to Chicago, Steph got hurt. But Saturday really, really hurt my soul. Just the effort from that game at home. Okay, they avenged that Monday. And then we see what happens. No Draymond last night. Monte, what we've been throwing around, and I'm curious to get your answer. We've been arguing, Steiny and I, what's new. What would you define a successful season for this team, Monte? Where we're at right now, does that even exist? What would have to happen for Monte Poole to say, you know what, that was a successful Warrior season all in all?
For them to get into the playoffs and win a first-round series. I mean, to me, that's a rousing success because the way they played over the course of this season, getting to the second round, the conference semifinals for this team, it seems like such a long shot right now. So if they're able to somehow do that, that's a successful season. If go beyond that, that's a highly, highly successful season. That's extraordinary. So I think if they end up, in the 9 or 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there and can't get into the playoffs, you can only say it's a failure. There's no other way to look at it. They have to at least get into the playoffs to be able to say that, okay, at least we got there. And to me, that's still unsatisfactory. If they get there and they push the first round opponent to 7 games, I guess there is something to be said for that. But when you look at the Warriors' record against the Big Four, it ain't good.
Right.
Minnesota, OKC, the Clippers, and the Nuggets, it ain't. They've only won 2 games against those teams. And they've lost, I think it's like 13 or 14, maybe 13, something like that. So it's just a tough way for them to try and get out. And unless they win more games in the conference, they're gonna have a tough time. And right now, their conference record, they're 10th, but their conference record is like 11th or 12th.
Yeah.
So when it comes to tiebreakers, they're in trouble.
Monte Poole joining us on 95.7 The Game. He works for NBC Sports Bay Area, covers the Golden State Warriors. hypothetically, if this team stays in 10 and they get beat in the play-in, what's on the table, I guess, at that point?
I think it depends somewhat on how they get beat. Obviously Steph and Draymond are locked in. Clay is not. Clay turned down a deal over summer, just before the season started. And, the Warriors decided to stand pat. And the way it's looking like, on a business decision side, it was a smart move. I mean, Clay's not going to go out there and get $30 million from somebody the way he's playing. It's not going to happen. So, I know they'd like to, for a lot of reasons, have Clay. I know Steph would like to keep him around. I know Draymond would like to keep him around. They've done some things, and there's a chemistry there, and there's a certain amount of sentimentality when you have the three of them together for a couple more years with Coach Steve Kerr. But, to me, there's got to be some wiggle room there. And the one thing I know that they don't want to do is they definitely want to keep Kuminga.
Right.
They made that clear at the trade deadline, and I know Joe Lacob loves him, and Kuminga's come on so strong. I mean, he's a guy now you look at him and say he's got all-star potential the way he's playing. He's not there yet, but he has that potential, a few little nuances, and he can get there. So after that, I mean, Wiggins, what can you say about Wiggins? He has games where moments when he plays really, really well, and he has moments where he's practically invisible out there. So that sort of inconsistency has to be, on some level, maddening to anybody in that building. And so the one thing that they can say about Wiggins this year is that, for the most part, defensively, on ball, he's been pretty good. His off-ball defense comes and goes. His offense comes and goes. He's not making $40 million, but still, you want more from him than what you're getting from him right now. And, we don't all know what's going on inside in his personal life, but we know there's something going on, and maybe that's a factor here. But, yeah, you definitely want more from him.
Monty, I catch you on the pre and post with Bonte, the Dubs Talk Live when you're on, and I also just caught your latest podcast with Kuminga, and I got to tell you, Monty, I know he's 21. He's not perfect, but his ability, I told Steiny, to get to the free throw line, he's living there. Made 9 out of 10 last night. But in that podcast, he told you he wanted to be a Warrior for life. Did that shock you at all?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, it was good to hear if you're a Warriors fan. But I had to ask him because we know there's been some tension there at times. And, he says that's fine. And, I look at Steph and Clay and Draymond, in the facility. I look at their pictures and stuff, and I want to go up there too. That's great. And like he said, my favorite player, Kobe Bryant, was a Laker for life. He was a one-team guy. And he wants to do that same thing. He wants to be a Warrior, a one-team guy. And the question is whether he can do that over the long haul. Obviously, the Warriors will be paying him whatever market value when time comes. He's got one more year coming up. They've already accepted the next season, so that's the final year of his rookie contract. But they got to pay him. I mean, they paid Jordan Poole, and so how that worked out. I think J.K. is looking better than Jordan did at this stage.
Yes, especially this year that he's having compared to the last year that Jordan Poole had with the Warriors. Monte Poole joining us on 95.7 The Game. What's the first thought that ran through your head last night when you heard Draymond Green wasn't playing and neither was Steph?
Boy.
My first thought was that, okay, that means Clay and Wiggins, you guys are up. You guys got rings. You guys are the vets. When Steph is out, Clay needs to step up. When Draymond's out, Wiggins needs to step up. That means not just scoring, defending, rebounding, doing all those things. And you watch the game, it didn't materialize. And so, if those guys have even average games, they have a chance. They have a chance. They lose by 10. Granted, the Mavericks pulled away in that third quarter there behind Kyrie. They did a great job on Luka. That was Wiggins mostly. Luka did not hurt them very much. And so if you play the Mavericks and you hold Luka and Kyrie combined to 44 points, you're thinking, okay, we got a shot. But, they got beat up a little bit on the inside with Gafford and Lively. But Kyrie, in the end, that kind of took over. And when he did, nobody stepped up to that challenge. And they ended up losing by 10. But yeah, if Clay and Wiggins can give them 44 points, it's a different game. It's a different game.
Monty, I'm always bragging to Steiny and anybody that'll listen about my remote control game. And Monday, I'm watching the Warriors at the Spurs. There's a fast break. Wiggins doesn't pass it to Pods. And Monty, I love both aspects of this. I love Pods for getting at him. And then Wiggins barked back, and I'm texting Steiny like, that'll light a firecracker under Wiggins. But how did you read that? Because I'm like, well, maybe Pods knows what's going on in the locker room, so he felt that was the vet he could pick on. But I love Wiggins barking back. But how did the great Monte Poole see that exchange?
I thought it was hilarious. First of all, I'm not surprised by BP. I mean, that's who he is. But Wiggins, any sign of any spark you see from Wiggins, you like welcome that, don't you?
Yes.
You want that. I mean, here's a guy who, a couple of years ago, Steph was saying that, to get him going, he's going to show him video of his dunk over Cat.
Oh, wow, okay.
A couple of years ago, I'm going to show it to him every game to get him going. You got to fire this guy up. So any sign of fire from him, you take that. But I'm always surprised by how many guys in the NBA, not just the worst, how many guys in the NBA just somehow don't realize it, don't make the move. When you're on a break, who has the best chance? You with the ball that's being chased, or the trailer?
Wow.
You shouldn't have to ask that question.
You're right. I got you.
Yeah. I mean, usually, how many guys are going in, and the chase down block is in vogue now too. So make that guy commit and then dump it off.
Yeah.
Dump it off and instead guys are going in and getting blocked, and you got a fast break that goes nowhere. So, and there's Wiggins last night, kind of sauntering down by himself, not realizing that the defense is catching up to him, and you got an empty fast break.
Wow.
So you got to be better.
Yes, they do, Monty. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Really appreciate it. And we'll see what happens Saturday in L.A.
Big game. We'll see you guys.
All right, that's Monte Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area.